women accuse Cosby of drugging them. Tonight, a potentially explosive discovery. What Bill Cosby reportedly admitted to. Also breaking tonight, the terror leader who threatened American lives on the 4th of July. New reports tonight, he might have been the one killed on the 4th. Also, the scare today at Walter Reed Medical Center, families locking themselves in their rooms. The race to contain the wildfires this evening, homes destroyed where many families vacation. And the lightning in the east, igniting this fire at a popular resort. And tonight, the cancer scare. The doctor who allegedly told patients they had cancer, they did not. Hundreds of families affected.
From ABC News World Headquarters, this is ABC World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, and it's great to have you with us here on a Monday night. And we begin tonight with late developments in the Bill Cosby case, a potential bombshell in the case. The comedian accused by so many women of drugging them and sexually abusing them, he has maintained his innocence. But tonight, the Associated Press now uncovering what they say is an admission under oath, answering yes when asked if he was going to use drugs, Quaaludes, on young women. ABC's Wjla Benitez leading us off.
After more than 30 women accused Bill Cosby of drugging or sexually assaulting them, for the first time, word tonight that Cosby himself reportedly admitted to drugging at least one woman he wanted to have sex with. The Associated Press reporting the 77-year-old makes the stunning admission in a 2005 deposition, seen here in an excerpt, answering yes when asked if he was using Quaaludes for young women that you wanted to have sex with. The depo, part of a lawsuit from a former Temple University employee. Cosby's lawyers had objected, saying it would embarrass Cosby. Just this May, ABC's Lindsay Davis asked Cosby about the allegations.
This is a situation that's unprecedented. My family, my friends, I have been in this business 52 years, and I've never seen anything like this.
One of Cosby's accusers, Beverly Johnson, telling ABC News he drugged her.
I took a couple of sips of the cappuccino, and from the first sip and then the second sip, I knew I had been drugged.
Tonight, the AP saying Cosby's lawyers in the case had not immediately returned their calls. Wjla Benitez, ABC News, New York.
Gio, thank you. Now, another developing headline at this hour. It involves an alleged terror leader who authorities say threatened American lives on the 4th of July. Well, tonight, new reports that he might have been the one killed on the 4th. Here's the image tonight, this ISIS recruiter issuing a message about the 4th. And then there's this, the airstrikes over the weekend, over the holiday. ABC's chief investigative correspondent Brian Ross tonight on the reports he might have been killed.
My dear Muslims.
Until now, U.S. officials considered this British-born ISIS recruiter, Abu Raheen Aziz, a key figure in online calls for attacks on America.
Look to your own actions. Look to your own deeds. Have you done enough?
His most recent message, this posting last Friday about July 4th, Wjla, a day to remember amongst other days. It was quite a 4th of July, but not as Aziz expected. His fellow jihadists said today he was killed as the U.S. launched a series of July 4th airstrikes on the terror group's home base in Raqqa, Syria. The U.S. today would not confirm his death, but late this afternoon, President Obama announced the U.S. is stepping up its attacks on ISIS leaders and recruiters in Syria, taking off the gloves.
We're going after the ISIL leadership and infrastructure in Syria, the heart of ISIL that pumps funds and propaganda to people around the world.
The president cited the attack on a Mohammed cartoon contest in Texas as the sort of threat the U.S. now faces. The men behind the attack were inspired by, among others, the recruiter Aziz, believed to have been killed on the 4th of July.
And Brian with us today. We saw the president speaking today, but Brian has learned that this American assault against ISIS leadership could involve more than just airstrikes?
That's right, David. In addition to the increased coalition airstrikes, there now could be expanded special operations forces to go after ISIS sanctuaries and its leaders, David.
All right, Brian Ross tonight. Brian, thanks. And as you know, this whole country on heightened alert over the 4th because of those messages from ISIS. Today, evidence authorities are taking everything seriously. A massive response at Walter Reed Medical Center. Look at this. A 911 call, reports of a shooter sending the medical center into lockdown, families bolting themselves in their rooms. SWAT teams then rushing in, workers rushing out of the building, their hands in the air. This is the second major scare at an American military facility in just a week. ABC's David Curley on what was behind it.
Police, military and civilian flooding the Walter Reed Military Medical Center. Heavily armed tactical officers entering a building from the ground and the roof. The campus on lockdown. Patients and workers trapped after a 911 call reported the sound of gunfire. It came at 10:48, made from the campus's tower building. Loudspeakers blaring the warning to the up to 7,000 workers. The report, active shooter. Just about an hour after that initial call, SWAT teams started arriving here at the main entrance to the naval facility and donning their gear. Law enforcement going floor by floor in the 20-story building, clearing out workers, some leaving the buildings with their hands up. It was just last Thursday when the Navy Yard, 8 miles to the south, was also locked down. Here at Walter Reed, after clearing each floor looking for signs of a shot, officers then used bomb-sniffing dogs.
There is no evidence or any indication of a firearm being discharged.
Even though this was a false alarm at this tower building, police say with the heightened terror alert, they are taking no chances and will investigate every threat. David?
David Curley in Maryland tonight. David, thanks. And we are also following those wildfires in the west and the fiery lightning right here in the east tonight. 49 fires in 8 states now, hundreds of acres burned, homes destroyed, and evacuations underway at this hour. Dramatic images from Idaho, that mountain there obscured by smoke, plumes visible hundreds of miles away. This home in Spokane, Washington, flames racing right across the front porch there. And in Sacramento, a blaze started not by the heat, but by fireworks this weekend. ABC's Neil Karlinski on the front lines tonight.
Across the west tonight, relentless wildfires.
Somebody did fireworks.
His house in Sacramento torched by an intense blaze sparked by fireworks. In Bayview, Idaho, hot, dry conditions sent flames rolling over 2,000 acres along this rural lakeside community.
It was very, very intense.
150 people were evacuated for a time and at least 6 homes burned. Firefighters working in dangerous conditions to save them. With the only road in cut off, we took a boat to the front lines. A battle largely fought from the air.
How bad was it at its worst? You could actually see the trees, literally catching on fire and blowing up like a bomb.
Fires burning to the east in Florida as well. Lightning blasting the Avanti Resort in Orlando, reportedly causing it to go up in flames. Right now, 54 wildfires are burning out west, decimating more than 3 million acres, the most since 2006, at least partly because of record heat and prolonged drought. And there's no end in sight.
Conditions here are steep and rugged. The good news is that because we're on the lake here, these helicopters can make repeated runs and keep reloading to try to get ahead of this fire before conditions here get even hotter. David?
Been such a difficult season already, Neil. Thanks. We've got the wildfires in the west and severe storms tonight from the Midwest, all the way east?
Yes, in the heart of the severe storms right now in Kansas City. I want to take you straight there, where they're not only under a severe thunderstorm watch, but tornado warnings have been popping around Kansas City, flash flood warnings. There are a lot of threats tonight, not just damaging wind and hail, but you can see a lot of rain. We're talking 4 to 6 inches. That line blows through Chicago tonight. St. Louis, you're in it, all the way to Lubbock. That's all the flash flood watch area. So from southern Illinois and central Illinois back there. Where I'm watching tonight is northeastern Oklahoma, so just south of Wichita, right through Oklahoma City for some of those really heavy rains. And then that heat, David, you mentioned it's not ending, at least for 2 days in a lot of these spots. Fire watches, red flag warnings, and heat advisories still in place for Portland, Oregon. All right, and I wasn't here last week, so congrats on the baby coming. Thank you. Thanks, Ginger. We have a stunning headline out of Chicago now, and a disturbing one, that flurry of gun violence. A deadly holiday weekend, 9 people killed, at least 53 injured, and among the victims tonight, we're learning more about this 7-year-old boy. Tonight, Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel making an impassioned plea for stricter gun laws in his city and across the country. To San Francisco now, and the growing outrage tonight after that deadly shooting, sparking a fierce debate about undocumented immigrants. The young woman shot and killed in cold blood during a routine walk on a popular pier. The suspect had been deported several times, and that young woman's family tonight asking, how was he even here? ABC's Pierre Thomas now.
There's one victim, gunshot wound to the back.
Catherine Steinle, a loving daughter, was fatally shot right in front of her father as they took an early evening stroll on the San Francisco pier.
Next thing we know, we heard a pop, and Kate turned, said, help me, Dad, and
authorities say she was killed by this man, Francisco Sanchez, a convicted and illegal immigrant who had been deported 5 times. Federal immigration authorities claim he should have never been on the street, saying they specifically asked in writing to be notified when Sanchez's local drug case in San Francisco was completed.
San Francisco police should have notified ICE, but they had a policy not to.
San Francisco is a so-called sanctuary city, one that does not detain undocumented immigrants. And local officials say after the drug charges were dropped, they had no legal basis to hold Sanchez.
They know that they should have responded with a court order or a federal warrant.
As for Sanchez, in an exclusive interview with her own KGO of San Francisco, this chilling admission.
Did you shoot Kate Steinle?
Yes.
He claims it was an accident.
She wanted to have a full life. She was just an amazing person.
The feds continue to maintain that city officials dropped the ball, that they simply wanted a courtesy call that the suspect was going to be released. David?
Pierre Thomas live in our Washington bureau tonight. Pierre, thank you. To South Carolina tonight and a major development in the firestorm over the Confederate flag still flying on State House grounds after that massacre at a Bible study 2.5 weeks ago. Tonight, after an emotional debate, the Senate there casting a high-stakes vote. ABC's Steve Osinsami is there.
Tonight, the culture war at the South Carolina State House. Legislators for and against keeping the battle flag were pouring their hearts out.
I'm embarrassed to say that I never fully realized just how offensive the Confederate battle flag was.
Lawmakers are clearly moved by the murder of one of their own, his desk covered in black cloth. Senator Clemente Pinckney was one of the 9 people killed by an alleged gunman who police say meant to shoot black people and took pictures of himself with a gun in one hand and a Confederate flag in the other. But the flag supporters were passionate and moving.
That we're placing the blame of what one deranged lunatic did on people that hold their Southern heritage high, and I don't think that's fair.
A third and final vote across the state legislature is expected to take place later this week. David?
Steve Osinsami with us. Steve, thank you. Overseas tonight and to Greece now after that vote against a referendum that could have brought brutal new austerity measures. Well, this evening, the finance minister now stepping down. Meanwhile, across Greece, long lines now at banks, families restricted at the ATM, no more than $67 a day. Meantime, here at home tonight, the Dow relatively steady, closing down just over 46 points. With the Greece economy still very uncertain. And from Greece to Ecuador this evening and to Pope Francis on an 8-day tour through Latin America, crowds stretching to the horizon there at an open-air mass, an estimated 1 million people, giving the world's first Latin American pope a hero's homecoming. Meantime, back here at home tonight, that terrifying moment at the NASCAR track. That car flying through the air, the fence preventing a major disaster on the track, but fans injured by debris. And tonight, that driver somehow walking away and tonight speaking out about that moment of impact. Here's ABC's Mara Scavocampo.
And the big one happens behind them.
Tonight, a NASCAR driver and several fans recovering after this massive crash. One car hitting another at almost 200 miles per hour, sending it sailing through the air and into the catch fence. Pieces of debris flying into the stands. Driver Austin Dillon miraculously suffering only a bruised tailbone and forearm. Other drivers also shaken up, including winner Dale Earnhardt Jr., who lost his dad in a racing accident at the same course in 2001.
That was real frightening. You're just on the verge of tears, to be honest with you.
Several fans also injured, 4 treated on the scene, 1 taken to the hospital in stable condition.
I think our speeds are too high. I really do. I think everybody can get good racing with lower speeds.
Still, officials say the catch fence worked and that after this accident, they'll work to improve them even more. Mara Scavocampo, ABC News, New York.
Mara, thank you. We have new developments tonight after that plane crash on a California beach over the weekend. You might have seen the pictures. They were stunning. That small plane landing on the sand after losing power. Beachgoers scattering as it hits the ground there. It flips over, people rushing to help out. 12-year-old Nicholas Baer was injured, a gash on his head. His